Here are 4 signs God is saying all you need to do is remain silent. Number 1, when your silence emphasizes the power of God. Jesus spoke very little throughout the scenes leading up to his crucifixion. One of the clearest examples of Jesus staying silent was when he was before Herod. So why didn't Jesus speak to Herod? Luke 23, verses 8 through 9 give us the context. When Herod saw Jesus, he was very glad, for he had long desired to see him because he had heard about him, and he was hoping to see some sign done by him. So he questioned him at some length, but Jesus made no answer. Herod had every opportunity to go see Jesus during his 3-year public ministry, but he didn't. Herod wanted Jesus to listen to his summons. Herod wanted Jesus to come to him. And now that he had Jesus, he was commanding Jesus to do a miracle. Jump, boy, go on, do us a trick, and I'll toss you a treat. The whole scene is about authority. If Jesus would have done the miracle at that time and listened to Herod and responded back to Herod, it could have easily been perceived as though Jesus was obeying Herod. Thus, that would show that Herod had authority over Jesus. So sometimes the most powerful thing you can do to show someone that they don't have power over you is to be silent. Whatever can elicit a response from you is what has power over you. That's why a bully teases and tries to rile the others up. If they can get you mad, sad, or even fighting, the bully feels powerful because he is forcing you to do what he wants. Their sadistic joy comes not from their actions, but from your response to their actions. Satan and the world seek to do the same thing to Christians because they know whatever can cause you to respond is what has power over you. When we are tempted to yell, to shout, to gossip, to speak words of anger towards those who are angry at us, sometimes the best way to show that God is the authority in our life is by staying silent. Number 2, if you're devaluing your own words by speaking, oftentimes God is telling you to be silent. When you keep talking and no one's listening, not only does that heighten the awareness that other people don't value what you say, it's also a sign that you're not valuing what you're saying. Jesus said, "Do not give dogs what is holy, and do not throw your pearls before pigs, lest they trample them underfoot and turn to attack you." In context, Jesus said this after he was talking about how to lovingly correct someone. His point was that you should not keep correcting someone who is not willing to receive your correction because it devalues what you say. Likewise, when people just talk over you, they're not listening to you, they're rude, or they just want to argue and not really come up with a good solution, then honestly, one of the best things you can do is not to continue talking to them. And I'm not talking about giving them the silent treatment or being rude or awkward if they're around. You can be polite and communicate what needs to be communicated, but don't keep offering your words and advice to people who aren't receiving them. If you keep talking when no one is listening, you're training everyone around you to not value what you're saying. And if you're enjoying this video, it would be really helpful if you gave it a thumbs up so it might spread to more people who also might need to see it. Number 3, if someone just wants to argue, God says to be silent. 2 Timothy chapter 2, verses 15 through 17 and verses 23 through 26 states, "Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who has no need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. But avoid irrelevant babble, for it will lead people into more and more ungodliness, and their talk will spread like gangrene. Have nothing to do with foolish, ignorant controversies. You know that they breed quarrels, and the Lord's servant must not be quarrelsome, but kind to everyone, able to teach, patiently enduring evil, correcting his opponents with gentleness. God may perhaps grant them repentance, leading to a knowledge of the truth, and they may come to their senses and escape from the snare of the devil after being captured by him to do his will." And number 4, if you need something that God has already promised to give you, sometimes he's calling you to remain silent. When we have a need, God commands us to ask him to supply that need. So it's certainly very good to present your request to God and to ask Him for those things that you need. But eventually, the repetition and the continued talking about that need can eventually become a sign that you lack faith. Sometimes there arises needs in our lives that God has already promised to answer. Thus, we need to just trust what God has already said. For example, before God led Israel out of Egypt through Moses, God promised the Israelites that He would deliver them. But when the Egyptian army had them pinned against the Red Sea, they cried out in fear and doubt. Exodus 14:13 through 14 then states, "And Moses said to the people, 'Fear not, stand firm, and see the salvation of the Lord, which will work for you today. For the Egyptians whom you see today, you shall never see again. The Lord will fight for you, and you have only to be silent.'" Likewise, when the expectations of how God was going to deliver what He's promised to deliver, when those expectations don't match our reality, it's tempting to lose faith, to start complaining and talking too much. But if God has promised something and you're in need of that, then the only solution is to just keep having faith, because He's faithful and He will supply it in His timing. I'm Mark from ApplyGodsWord.com. Until next time, God bless.